Hi everyone, welcome to all. This is Vidyam Academy's most expected question series for medical NEET examination. Today's topic is NCERT Class 12 Biology, chapter number 6, Evolution. And into this subtopic is Biological Evolution, Mechanism of Evolution. Let's welcome to all. Let's get started. The first question, the Hardy-Weinberg Principle describes the allele frequencies in a population under specific conditions. Which statement correctly describes this principle? Option A. Allele frequencies and genotype frequencies in a population remain constant generation after generation in the absence of evolutionary forces such as mutation, selection, migration, and genetic drift. Option B. Allele frequencies always change every generation regardless of population size or environmental conditions. Option C. The principle applies only to populations with fewer than 100 individuals. Option D. Genotype frequencies always follow a 3:1 ratio in every population similar to a monohybrid cross. What is the right answer? Yes, the right answer for this question is option A. Let's go for detailed explanation. So why option A is right answer here? The Hardy-Weinberg principle states that in a large randomly mating population with no mutation, no selection, no migration, and no genetic drift, allele frequencies P for dominant, Q for recessive, and genotype frequencies P square plus 2PQ plus Q square is equal to 1 remain constant from generation to generation. This is a genetic equilibrium. This principle is the null hypothesis of population genetics. It describes what happens when evolution is not occurring. Any deviation from these predicted frequencies in a real population indicates that one or more evolutionary forces, mutation, selection, migration, drift, and non-random mating, are actively acting on the population. This makes Hardy-Weinberg the essential mathematical baseline against which real evolutionary change is measured and detected. Let's move to question number 2. Genetic drift causes random changes in allele frequencies, especially in small populations. Which scenario correctly illustrates the founder effect, a special case of genetic drift? So here the option A. A large stable population maintains the same allele frequencies for thousands of generations without change. Option B. Natural selection consistently favors one allele over another across many generations in large population. Option C. A small group of individuals migrates and establishes a new isolated population by chance. The allele frequencies of this small founding group differ from the original population, and these altered frequencies persist in the new population. Option D. Two large populations of equal size merge and their allele frequencies average out exactly. Would you guess the right answer for this question? The right answer of this question is option C. Let's go for detailed explanation why and how. The founder effect is a special case of genetic drift that occurs when a small number of individuals, the founders, famously known as, become isolated from a larger parent population and establish a new population, for example, colonizing an island. Because the founding group is small, it carries by chance only a sample of genetic variation present in the original population. Some alleles may be overrepresented, others may be completely absent. This altered allele frequency then becomes characteristic of the entire new population as it grows. Even though it doesn't reflect the original population's frequencies, the founder effect is genetic drift acting through small population size the moment of colonization. And it's distinct from natural selection because the frequency change is due to chance sampling, not differential fitness. Next, move to question number 3. The pepper moth, so Biston battlera in England, is a classical example of natural selection in action. What happened to the math population during and after the Industrial Revolution? Option A. The dark melanic form completely disappeared during the Industrial Revolution due to increased population, killing all dark maths. Option B. Both light and dark forms remained equally common throughout the Industrial Revolution with no change in proportion. Option C. The light form became more common in industrial areas because pollution made tree bark lighter in color, camouflaging light moths better. And option D. Before industrialization, the light color form was common, camouflaged and clean lichen covered bark. During industrialization, soot dark the tree bark and the dark melanic form became more common because it was better camouflaged from bird predators. After pollution control, the light from increased again. Do you guess the right answer? The right answer of this question is option D. Let's go for detailed explanation. Before the Industrial Revolution, tree trunks in England were covered with light colored lichen. So the light colored pepper mats were well camouflaged and the red dark melanic form was easily spotted and eaten by birds. As industrial pollution increased, soot blackened the tree bark and killed the lichen, reversing the camouflage advantage. Now the dark moths were better hidden and the light moths stood out were eaten more frequently by predator birds. This caused the population of dark moths to increase dramatically in industrial areas. A direct observable example of natural selection changing allele frequencies in response to an environmental change. After clean air legislation reduced pollution in the mid-20th century, lichen returned and the light from increased again, demonstrating natural selection reversing direction as the environmental changed back. Let's go for question number 4. Antibiotic resistance in bacteria is a real-time example of natural selection. Which of the following correctly explains how resistance evolves in a bacterial population? Option A. So random mutations confirming antibiotic resistance exists at low frequency before antibiotic exposure. When antibiotic is applied, sensitive bacteria are killed while resistant ones survive and multiply, increasing the proportion of resistant bacteria in the population over generations. Option B. Antibiotics directly cause mutations in bacterial DNA that specifically create resistance genes only when needed. Option C. All bacteria in a population become resistant simultaneously and instantly upon first exposure to an antibiotic. Option D. Bacterial resistance arises only through horizontal gene transfer and never through random mutation. What is the right answer for this question? The right answer for this question is option A. So let's go for detailed explanation why and how. Random mutations confirming antibiotic resistance arise spontaneously in bacterial populations at low frequency, completely independent of whether antibiotics are present. Mutations are random, not a response to need. When an antibiotic is introduced, it acts as a strong selective pressure. Antibiotic sensitive bacteria are killed, while the rare resistant mutants survive and continue to reproduce, free from competition. Because bacteria reproduce extremely rapidly, the resistance subpopulation can become dominant within just a few generations, hours to days. This is natural selection in its purest, most observable form. Pre-existing heritable variation plus differential survival and reproduction in a changed environment. So change in allele frequency, the same mechanism explains the global public health crisis of antibiotic resistance bacteria today. So that's what option A is right answer. Next, move to question number 5. Natural selection can act on a population in different patterns depending on which phenotypes are favored. Which option correctly describes the 3 types of natural selection? The first one, option A, stabilizing selection favors extreme phenotypes at both ends of the distribution and eliminates intermediate phenotypes. Option B, directional selection favors the intermediate phenotype and eliminates both extremes. Option C, Stabilizing selection favors the average intermediate phenotype and reduces variation. Directional selection shifts the population mean toward one extreme. Disruptive selection favors both extreme phenotypes over the intermediate, potentially leading to two distinct subpopulations. Option D. All three types of natural selection produces identical effects on a population's phenotype distribution. Would you guess the right answer? Yes, the right answer for this question is option C. Let's go for explanation. Stabilizing selection favors individuals with average or intermediate phenotypic values and select against both extremes. This reduces variation and keeps the population centered around the mean. It is the most common type, maintaining well-adapted traits like human birth weight. Very low or very high birth weight has higher mortality. Directional selection favors one extreme phenotype over the other, causing the population mean to shift in that direction over time. This occurs when environmental conditions change consistently in one direction, such as the peppermints shift toward dark coloration during industrial pollution. Disruptive diversifying selection favors both extreme phenotypes over the intermediate form, which can split a single population into two distinct phenotypic groups and potentially lead to speciations. These three patterns describe all the ways selection can reshape a population phenotype distribution. And next, move to question number 6. Gene flow is one of the 5 forces of evolution recognized in the modern synthesis. Which statement correctly describes the effect of gene flow on population? Option A. Gene flow always increases genetic differences between separated populations over time. Option B. Gene flow has no effect on allele frequencies regardless of migration rate. Option C. Gene flow only occurs between populations of completely different species. Option D. Gene flow is the movement of alleles between populations through migration of individuals or their gametes. It tends to homogenize allele frequencies between populations, counteracting the divergence caused by a genetic drift or local selection in isolated populations. Let's check whether your guess is right or wrong. Option D is right answer of exactly question number 6, which demands for. Let's see the explanation. Gene flow occurs when individuals or their gametes, such as pollen, migrate from one population to another and successfully interbreed, introducing new alleles or changing existing allele frequencies in the recipient population. Its primary revolutionary effect is to reduce genetic differences between populations. It acts as a homogenizing force that counters the divergence the genetic drift or local natural selection would otherwise produce in isolated populations. High gene flow between populations keeps them genetically similar. Restricted or absent gene flow due to geographic barriers allows populations to diverge independently, which is often a precursor to speciation. This is why physical barriers, mountains, rivers, oceans that reduce gene flow are frequently associated with the formation of new species, exactly as seen in Darwin's finches across different Galapagos Islands. Let's move to question number 7. Genetic drift and natural selection are both mechanisms of evolution, but they differ fundamentally in how they change allele frequencies. Which statement correctly distinguishes them? Option A. Genetic drift always increases the fitness of population while natural selection always decreases it. Option B. Natural selection is a random process while genetic drift is driven entirely by a phenotype environment fit. Option C. Natural selection is a non-random process where allele frequency changes occur because certain phenotypes confer a survival or a reproductive advantage. Genetic drift is a random process where allele frequencies change purely by chance, with effects strongest in small populations. Option D. Genetic drift only operates in plant populations, while natural selection only operates in animal populations. What is the right answer? Yes, the right answer is option C. Let's go for explanation. Natural selection is a non-random, a deterministic process. Allele frequencies change because individuals with certain alleles have a genuine survival or reproductive advantage in their environment. Let's say, for example, antibiotic resistance bacteria. So dark and pepper mats. The change is directional and predictable given the selective pressure. Genetic drift, in contrast, is a random, stochastic process. Allele frequencies change purely due to chance events in which individuals happen to survive and reproduce, completely independent of whether their alleles are advantageous. Genetic drifts effects are strongest in small populations, where chance sampling has a proportionally larger impact. In larger population, random fluctuations average out. Both processes change allele frequencies, but only natural selection systematically improves a population's adaptation to its environment. Genetic drift can just and easily fix a harmful or neutral allele as a beneficial one. Let's move to question number 8. Match the column first one, it's a evolutionary force, and the column 2 is a correct description. The first one, genetic drift, second one gene flow, third one natural selection, fourth one mutation. So here in the right hand side, option A, random change in allele frequency due to chance events, strongest in small populations. Option B, movement of allele between populations through migration tends to homogenize allele frequencies. Option C, non-random differential survival and reproduction based on phenotype environment fit. Option D, random heritable change in DNA sequence, the ultimate source of new genetic variation. So here are the options. A, 1A, 2B, 3C and 4D. Option B, 1C, 2D, 3A and 4B. Option C, 1B, 2A, 3D and 4C. Option D, 1D, 2C, 3B, 4A. So what is the right answer for this question? The right answer is option A, 1A, 2B, 3C and 4D. Let's go for explanation. Genetic drift is the random change in the allele frequency caused purely by chance, with the strongest effects in a small populations where sampling error has a greater impact. Includes the founder effect and the bottleneck effect. So gene flow, it's the second one which matches B, is the movement of allele between populations via migration individuals or gametes. It homogenizes allele frequencies and counteracts divergence between populations. Natural selection is the third one which matches C, is the non-random process where individuals with phenotypes better suited to their environment survive and reproduce more successfully, systematically increasing the frequency of advantageous alleles. Finally, mutation is the fourth one which matches to D, is a random heritable change in DNA sequence and is the ultimate source of all new genetic variation without mutation. So none of the other three forces would have never alleles to act upon. These four forces together, recognized by the modern synthetic theory, explain the complete mechanism of evolutionary change in population. Next, move to question number 9. So here the assertion A population that has gone through a severe bottleneck, a drastic reduction in population size, let's say for example due to natural disaster, typically shows much lower genetic diversity even after the population size recovers. So here the reason are, during a bottleneck only a small number of surviving individuals carry forward a random and limited sample of the original population's alleles into the next generation. Many alleles present in the original population are lost by chance and cannot be generated simply by population growth alone. So here the options. Both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. Option B, A is false. Option D, both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation of A. And finally, the D one is A is true, but R is false. Did you guess the correct answer? Option C is right answer. Both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation of A. Let's see how and why. Populations that have survived a bottleneck such as cheetahs, which suffered an extreme population crash thousands of years ago, consistently show significantly reduced genetic diversity compared to populations that never experienced such a crash even long after numbers have recovered. So here the reason R is also true because it gives the precise mechanism when only a few individuals survive a bottleneck event. They carry forward only a random subset of the alleles present in the original larger population. Many alleles by sheer chance are simply not present in any number of survivors or permanently lost. Population growth after the bottleneck increases the number of individuals but cannot restore alleles that no longer exist in the gene pool. So new alleles can only return through a new mutation. It's very slow. Or migration from another population or directly explains why A is true. Chances loss of alleles during the bottleneck, not subsequent population size, determines the permanent loss of diversity. The final question of this topic is question number 10. Arrange the following events in correct order describing how a new beneficial allele is become fixed in a population through natural selection. Option A. So here option P. A random mutation arises in a single individual creating a new allele. Q. The new allele happens to be a survival or reproductive advantage in the correct environment. R. The individual carrying the allele survives and reproduces more successfully than individuals without it. Yes. The allele is passed to offspring increasing slightly in frequency each generation. T. Over many generations, natural selection continues to favor carriers of the allele and its frequency in the population steadily rises. U. The allele eventually reaches a frequency of 100% in the population fixation. Every individual now carries it. Options A. QPRSTU, B. PQRSTU, and C. PRQSTU, and D. RPQTSU. What is the right answer? Yes, the right answer is option B. PQRSTU. Let's see the explanation. The first one, mutation, a new allele arises by chance in a single individual through a random DNA copying error. Mutation itself has no foresight and not directed by need. Whether this allele turns out to be beneficial. Next, move to Q. Depends entirely on whether it happens to improve fitness in the correct environment. Most mutations are neutral or harmful, only occasionally beneficial. It beneficial the carrier survives and reproduces more successfully than non-carriers. Let's move to R. This is the natural selection acting. The allele is then passed to offspring. Next move to S. Gradually increasing in frequency each generation as carriers consistently out reproduce non-carriers. Over many generations, continued selection. It's here the T next move. Steadily rises the allele's frequency. Finally, fixation, it's U, occurs when the allele frequency reaches 100%. So every individual in the population now carries it and the population has permanently changed at the genetic locus. That's what this sequence PQRSTU, its sequence is the completely mechanism of adaptive evolutionary change. So here we explained 10 most important and expected questions for your upcoming NEET examinations. And next, I will come up with another topic which are very important for your NEET examination. Till so far, I would like to conclude this session with very well goodness. Thank you and thank you so much to all.